Hello, beautiful people. And I am back from a very long time away. Well, not really long. I think it was 13 days, 12 days, 10 days in Norway. I just got back last night and I miss you guys and I miss Ginger. And
Yeah, I miss you too.
I didn't miss you, Eric, because I know you were there messing with my phone settings. You kept moving the chair that I always sit in, the queen chair in our little cabin. You move it away from the table and
Yeah,
the table
yeah.
back and forth. So yeah, you were there.
He's not me. I didn't do that. And then he laughs. Of course
Oh
I
yeah,
did.
oh, yeah,
Of course I did.
yeah, yeah. When we go to Norway, he always does stuff. Like one time, we have it's so cold there. We have warming cables in the bathroom and in the floor, right? And
Uh-huh.
Robert, we had a one time years ago, just something was wrong that they were heating up way too much. And Robert, the medium, I called him.
Hmm.
I mean, he called me or whatever. Eric wants to know if you like the floors that hot. And, Robert has no idea that they're warming cables
Right.
or anything,
Right.
something like that. So,
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah.
going to talk about
He,
today, guys?
Clairaudient and Clairsentient. I'm going to try to do both because they are. I mean, you can't do any of the clairs without the clairsentient, but I'm
Interesting.
gonna try to fit them all in here to get these
Okay.
last two together. Um, but I'll start with the clairsentient. This is one that I mean, everybody uses all the clairs, right?
Yeah.
But this is one that is probably the most common that we realize we have. This is our gut feeling, right?
Oh,
Some people, of course, are stronger than others with this. You know, it's that awareness too, that awareness of knowing and, paying attention to your body, which I'll get into because this is like, I want to talk about, this is Erik saying this. He wants to talk about, okay. He wants to talk about like protection, for the energy
yeah.
that people feel, from it. And, he says, I love you, mom. I love
I
you,
love you
mom.
too.
So, okay. All right. So people with the clairsentient, what it is these people have like an antenna, like an invisible antenna, right? Their whole body is like an antenna. All
Wow.
right. And they tune into like subtle vibrations and energies of people, animals, objects, the air in the
Wow.
room. They can
Is that
tune into
what do you call it when somebody can psychometry where they can touch an
that
object and
psychometry. That's
psychometry, yeah. Is that
part of
clairsentience?
clairsentient. Yes,
Okay.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, there are. I mean, it's all the same. It's all clairsentient, and if you have, clairsentient, which I don't want to really say if you have clairsentient because everybody has it,
Yeah.
unless you're like a numb person, which I guess could be possible. But what he says is there's the physical, there's emotional, there's
Wow.
intuitive. Okay, so with the physical, like I get sometimes where I'll feel like chest pain or I'll cough
Yeah, I
or
noticed
like,
that in a lot of the mediums. It's just, my throat is bothering me or I'm having trouble breathing. Yeah.
right, right. That's the clairsentient signals, that you get, he says. And one of the chakras, because we were talking about how these clairs are connected to our chakras, and the chakra that this one's connected to is the sacral, because that's where our emotions
Oh.
are. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It's all about emotions with the clairsentient, even though it's a physical feeling. You get the physical feeling. You have the emotional senses. So he's talking about like people that will like just have mood swings, mood changes out of nowhere. Now, some of these things we're talking about can be medical condition. Okay, like for instance, with mood changes, it could be, what is that one where you go up and then you go down? What is the name of that? I just totally lost it, Erik. The name of it. It's a medical condition where your
Oh, manic
moods will,
depression? Like mood
the
swings?
one, no, the one where
Bipolar?
Yeah, bipolar,
Okay.
bipolar. So your moods can just switch just like that, right?
Yeah.
Pay attention, he says, to what's going on in that moment, you know.
Mhm.
Another thing is you tune in intuitively to others' thoughts too, he says. So, your thoughts aren't always going to be your own. You're going to
Mhm.
hear, or I guess it's not hearing, but you're going to feel it.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of where the clairaudient and the clairsentience together, because you kind of hear things that you feel sometimes, he says.
Yeah.
Um,
That's weird. It's
yeah, because,
synesthesia where your senses get all kind of mixed up sometimes, or maybe it's not.
right.
Yeah.
What is it? What'd you say?
Synesthesia is like where some people have it where you can taste sounds and you can hear, yeah, you can feel sounds, or your all your senses sort of can.
Right. Combined. And
Yeah,
that's kind
right.
of the clairs do that too, because we use all of our clairs just like we use all of our physical senses.
Mhm.
Some are just stronger than others. And I think I said this before, it depends on, who you're tuning into, whether they're alive or past, because with the clairsentient too, you feel not only objects or people or animals or energies that are in the room with you. You can feel things that aren't in the room with you. You can feel like, people that aren't living, so there's a combination of them, but the clairs all work together. They do. And what he says is some of the ways to know, like if you're really strong with the clair
Yeah.
sentient, um, you're a sensitive person. He says someone who's very sensitive, right? Very sensitive, sensitive like to movies, or we're reading a book or someone's telling you just a story about something, and you're just real sensitive,
Yeah.
or sensitive response to things, like you may think that somebody's saying one thing and they're not. Now I have to separate that. He says separate that, because sometimes we read into things and it's not our clairsentient. It's like we're not really paying attention to the clairsentient, he says, when
Oh,
that happens,
yeah.
because you're misreading, right? So but you are extra sensitive. You're extra sensitive. Things hurt you. You get your feelings hurt,
Yeah.
easier than the average person. Another thing he says, to know if this is one, a really strong one for you, is anxiety in a crowded room. You get anxiety in a crowded room. Yeah, he's saying like if you go into crowded room, you get uncomfortable. He says those with the really strong clairsentient are the peacemakers, right? They're peacemakers. They want the
Yeah.
peace. They want to keep the peace because it's too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's very
Conflict is too
uncomfortable,
uncomfortable. Yeah, that's me for sure.
very uncomfortable to be around.
Conflict.
Some people that you don't even make angry. He says that have like angry reactions really easy and stuff, that you get very uncomfortable. Like they're usually the ones, he says, that are walking on eggshells, being very
Oh yeah.
careful around those that are, extra emotional, we'll
Yeah.
say. Let's see what else.
Well, I'm going to ask you,
Uh,
tell you one thing.
uh-huh.
I remember when we were driving to lunch that horrible day that Erik shot himself in the head. About that time, I had all of a sudden, this sudden headache, but I never get
Hmm.
headaches. And
Hmm.
it went away as quickly so I think I was like tuning into that event.
Well, so we're all, that's a yes. We're all connected,
Yeah.
right? We're all spiritually connected. So yes, we feel things that happen to other people. And you're already in tune to your family, especially, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
I wonder
because
if
you know them,
mothers,
you're around them.
I wonder if mothers have a even stronger clairsentient connection with their children, because in Norway, there's this lady who just knew that her kid had been, killed by some farm equipment. She just knew it. And it
Yeah.
had to be true. She just, and lots of things where the kid's on the other side of the world and they feel, especially negative stuff, unfortunately, because I guess that's
Right.
more powerful.
Right. It's heavier heavier, he
Heavier.
says.
Yeah.
It's heavier. But yes, mothers to their children is that's a pretty strong connection. Yes, because think about it. If you ever notice, like, there's some people that have no awareness whatsoever of what's going on around them, and then there's those that are totally in tune, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time we're in tune to what's going on with our children. That's just our instincts
Yeah.
as a parent. I'm not just going to say mothers, but as parents,
Yes, parents, sure.
Yeah. And so, yes, absolutely, you're going to sense things that happen to your children. And it's needed too, because you need to be more in tune to their needs, because that's what we do. We,
Yeah.
help them with whatever they need. Um, Another thing he says that it shows that if you're very strong with the clairsentient is people are drawn to you. So they're like, just people, animals, they're drawn to you.
Why is that?
They feel it, like they feel that you are going to be understanding. They feel, and this also with clairaudient, which we'll talk about that, he says. But when you are a good listener, is what he's saying, like
Yeah.
with the clairaudient. But you have a way of putting like out almost like a radar to people if you're clairsentient, or real strong with it, because your awareness is there, and people, it's almost like if you had two people in front of you, he says, and one, that they really care about you, another one, not really that much. Which one are you going
Right.
to go to?
Yeah.
Which one are you going to turn to for comfort, right?
Of course.
So it's like that, like you just, and other people are, their clairsentient kicks in, he said. That's a good point. So that you can feel it. You can feel when
Yeah.
somebody's very strong. You're a very strong, now everybody's an empath, and my joke is always, unless you're a psychopath, but some
Yeah.
people are stronger than others,
Yeah. Of
right?
course.
With their empathic ability. So being an empath is kind of saying, it's the same thing as saying clairsentient, I think,
Yeah.
because you're strong with your feeling of things.
Well, how do you discern what is your energy? What is the other person?
So
What is
so this
not
takes
part?
practice. This takes
Yeah.
practice. Okay. Okay, yeah, he says there are steps that you can take, which we're going to get into, for like protecting yourself, because there's even,
Okay.
like, if you have a child, he says this is important for parents that have children that are very over emotional, oversensitive. Be aware of what the triggers are around them when this happens, because most of the kids coming in today, I would say between the ages of 0 and 12 years old, around that generation, are going to be very strong psychic abilities, like just naturally psychic. There's going to be more of that.
Cool.
And this has to do with our evolution and what's to come. But there's a negative part to it too, if they don't understand it when they're children. They
Yeah.
they pick up on others' emotions, they pick up on others' feelings, they even pick up on others' pain.
Yeah.
So there's things that you can do to help them. Another way to know, and this is for for children too, is you're really good at reading people, and there's kids that are good at this too. Like, they just know things. They'll just like tell you things about yourself. I've had kids do that to me
Oh
before.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
say stuff. It's like, well, how did they know
You're an
that?
open book.
Yeah, yeah. Or, saying something about even the physical pain. They can feel your physical pain. So that's very strong.
Yeah.
So being very sensitive to people's moods, emotions, physical, feelings.
No. So how do you help your children?
So this is what he's saying. He's saying, so you can do this for them until they can learn on their own, but you can also teach them this. You want to teach them how to envision a bubble of divine light around themselves.
Yeah.
They can make any shape they want. Envision a flower around yourself. Any kind of shape they want, Erik says, to make it fun.
Yeah.
And envision yourself inside of a balloon. He says, envision yourself inside of a balloon. Just to let them know that this is a protective shield to protect
Yeah.
you. Okay, you can even, that's a good one. I like this one. He says you can even give them like a shield, like an iron shield. It doesn't really even
Yeah.
have to be around them as children. And this is for adults too. You can shield yourself. It's all visuals.
Yeah.
And let them know what that does. It shields you from other energies or other
Yeah.
outside things that are not your own. And to teach them how to know the differences. And it's a little hard, he says, with the younger children. So you can do it yourself as the parent. You can put the circle around them or the protection,
Oh,
okay?
okay.
So they're old enough to do it themselves, but you can teach them as they grow. And that also sets the example, he says, by doing that, letting
Yeah.
them know what you're doing, whether you think they understand or not. Kids understand a lot more than you think,
I
he
know. Well,
says.
so little infants that are fussy, etc. You say, "Hey, I'm putting a shield around." You just do it. Visualize that
Right,
rule. And then
right,
when they become more verbal, you can explain what you're doing, I guess. And so
right, exactly.
eventually tell them, "Hey, you can do it too." All right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I think it's important, that kids know the power of their thoughts and the power of
Fine.
their senses, because they do have them and they do need to be aware of them. It doesn't have to be about, the woo-woo or the psychic powers or whatever, they need to learn that it's just part of our natural being, you know. Um, so what he says is then there's other ways too, and this is for the older children to understand and adults. This is for everybody. There's a way to, and I do this after sessions. It's called cord cutting, and you're cutting away, like you can envision cutting the cord of
Oh,
maybe a bubble of energy. That's how I do it. I envision this bubble of energy that was around me because I had started with the protection anyway, right?
yeah.
Of a bubble. And then I take that bubble and I envision like a balloon. I cut the cord of it and then I just hand it over to my guides. He says, guides are your best friends. You
Oh, yeah.
always call on your guides.
I think we
Try
underuse them.
them.
We don't use them
Mhm.
enough. We don't ask them for enough help.
Well, we're not used to it, he says. We're not
Yeah.
used to, if you're not used to it, because some do get used to it, but he's saying if you're not used to it, plus it's like it's not natural. It's not natural to call on somebody who's not there
Yeah.
if it's not something you've always done,
Yeah,
right?
really. Right.
So yeah, so he says, so you can just envision too. Some people, he says, will do this. They'll like take showers, like they'll take a shower, like if you
Oh,
take a shower after work, okay. And you can just envision washing off all the energy. You can do
yeah.
that. Envision washing it away. This is another thing, another good thing to do when you're cleaning your house. Okay. You can clean away any energies, like as you're dusting or vacuuming, try to envision any negative energies. And again, call on your guides, he says, to take away what is not needed.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always take away what's not
Spring
needed. And when you,
cleaning.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also like wiping down, dusting, vacuuming, all those actions you can keep in your mind as you're taking away the energies that aren't needed
Oh,
also, not just
that's a
the dirt.
really good idea. Hmm.
Yeah. And so yeah, he's like, even when you're spraying like air fresheners or whatever, you're
Yeah.
spraying away the energies that aren't needed, he
Yeah.
says, like you would
Or
like
like you're
spray away
using
a
Palo
bug.
Santo spray or sage spray. You can do the same thing.
Right, right. I like those. I like those better than the
Yeah.
smoke.
Those are great. Yeah.
I'd be setting off smoke alarms if I do the other
Yeah, I know. I know.
one. My husband's a maintenance supervisor that works for like all these properties, and so
Yeah.
we have like smoke alarms like every few feet in our house. They're all
Oh
over
my
the place.
God. He knows. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. Um, let's see, what's another one, Eric? Oh, this is interesting, and I know you've talked about this before, but something that can bring positive physical energy to yourself, and you can teach your kids this too, is infusing positive energy, positive thoughts into your food, into your water,
Oh,
into your clothes. When you're washing your clothes, he says you can, envision it's washing all that away, or just putting a thought into
yeah.
it,
Like
makes it
over dinner,
better.
gratitude for what's on your plate,
Right,
nourishing your body and all that.
right,
That's
right.
positive. And
He's
also
he
deserving. I deserve what I'm getting. I
right,
deserve.
right, and something too, he's saying, like, when you're envisioning protecting yourself, it's good to say, or just you say this in your mind or whatever, to make the intent that it's only those things that are not needed, because you still need some things to come in. It's
Oh, yeah.
important to fit, he says.
That's a good point.
So yeah, you want to make sure, he says, that you're not blocking everything out,
Yeah.
So let's see. Yeah, so he's saying also, pay attention, like, to when, like, people are just learning about this, pay attention to what's yours and what's somebody else's. This will help.
Yeah.
Like, if you're starting to feel like sad all of a sudden, kind of try to figure out why.
Yeah,
Maybe,
why should I be sad? But
yeah, why am
my
I
neighbor
thinking this
Molly,
reason? Right,
or my sister
exactly.
who just called me on the phone, things like that, right?
Right, exactly. So
You
even a
could probably
physical,
use a pendulum to discern too.
yeah,
Is this mine? Show me your yes. Show
yeah,
me no, and then
yeah, absolutely. Especially people that you're close to,
yeah.
my husband and I, we, even with my kids, like, if they have like a pain or hurting or something, like, my husband will come home, he goes, about 11 o'clock today, did you have a headache? Or he'll make a
Oh,
comment like that,
wow.
because my head was really hurting. And sometimes, most of the time, it's going to be one or the other, or I'll ask
Yeah.
him. But
Yes.
you can sense that, and it's good to discern the difference,
Yeah.
between what's yours and what's coming from around you.
Yeah.
Um, this will really help too, he says, with people that are very sensitive individuals and strong empaths that have a hard time socializing.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um, there are so many, especially, this is a good point, especially, and I'm not saying anything negative about this generation, but
Yeah.
anyone raised with the technology where they're texting and socializing with, the internet, um, they're not as practiced
Right.
as being
That's
from
a
person to person.
diplomatic way to say it. They don't,
Right,
they haven't practiced their social communication skills as much as,
right.
yeah.
Right. And so, how are you going to understand something if you're not experiencing it,
Of
that
course.
much? And so they have a harder time in social situations,
So what do you
face to.
recommend?
Well, just to realize the same thing that we were talking about, just to realize what's yours and what's,
Yeah.
somebody else's, and just to acknowledge the fact that this is a possibility,
Yeah.
and that this is probably the reason why when you're around somebody you feel like this. Some of it's going to be just because, again, you're not practiced at it, because you're not used to it. You're
Yeah.
used to talking through a screen instead of
I
face to
know.
face.
Yeah.
It's important, though, to have these feelings, to feel what others
Yeah.
feel like, even if it's a negative feeling, because just like ourselves, he says, we need to acknowledge our feelings too and
Yeah.
not ignore them.
But
There's a reason.
yeah, that doesn't mean you have to, you can still know that it's not yours, but still
Right, right,
feel it with them, I guess.
exactly,
Okay.
right, exactly. And he's just saying that it's very helpful. It's very helpful, in a lot of situations. I mean, if you're in danger,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even our physical senses, help us, but you can have like pain from other people, and maybe that's going to help, like they need help or something, like if, say, they can't communicate. But it's really about that gut feeling, he says. That's the big
Like
one.
when I was almost killed by that serial killer, before I even saw him,
You
I just
knew.
got this sense of dread. And I wondered if this is going to be my life, my last day on earth. So it was a really strong feeling. So that, I guess
Yeah.
that's my clairsentient
Yes.
sentience. I don't like saying that word. It's so hard.
Right. Clairsentient.
Um,
I think clairsentient, I think, is easier than sentience. I get what you're saying. I
Sentient.
can't
Yeah,
either.
that's probably the proper way to say it anyway. Clairsentient.
Um,
Yeah, okay.
I think if you're going to make it plural, that's where that at the end
Okay.
comes in.
Yeah.
But I have a hard time saying some of these too.
Yeah.
So okay, so what he wants to talk about now is the clairaudience. We'll talk about
Okay.
the clairaudience, okay? Um, these kind of go together, because when you're hearing certain things, well, because I think that the clairsentient is kind of like a backup. He says that's a backup for the other clair. If you get a thought or you hear something, okay, or you get a vision, your clairsentient is the backup. It's going to let you know.
Okay.
You're going to get sometimes a gut. You get butterflies, or you get like the spirit bumps, they call them.
Yeah, right.
Those kind of things, right? Or you just know. Sometimes too, the just knowing, they'll call this the just knowing, just like they do the claircognizance, right? Because it's like gut feeling, just knowing, because it is the backup for these. But with the clairaudient, this one also is very close to the just knowing, because sometimes it's like, did I just think that, or did I hear that kind of thing?
Yeah, right.
So with clairaudient, he says that, well, first of all, clairaudience, when you hear, okay, with your ears, you hear stuff around you that's not there, like you can't see it, right? It sounds, even vibrations, pressure changes, things like that, okay, that you don't see. But most of the time, it's going to be inside your mind. Like you're going to hear a word, or you're going to hear a sentence, and it'll be inside your mind, but you can hear the auditory, on the outside.
That's pretty rare, right? Or is it? For
example,
it depends. Like hear Erik's voice actually outside of there going.
Have you ever? Okay, so he's saying, Mom, you ever just hear? And I think he did this with one of his siblings, where he'll, talk, and it's like you don't hear it in your mind, but you just hear it outside your ear, like a whisper, very subtle. That would be an example of it being on the outside. Also, ringing. Now, these can be medical conditions.
Yeah, so you need to check with your doctor.
Yes. A ringing in the ears, changes, not just even ringing, but just different.
Hello, beautiful people. Sorry about that little interruption we had. Technical difficulties with Zoom, but that's okay, because we'll make this a part 2. We're going to cover with Ginger Bailey, and also remember that we're going to show a splash screen on how to contact her. All right, so we're going to start part 2. We already talked about clairsentience, and now we're talking about clairaudience. We just started talking about it in part 1. This is now part 2. We'll cover it in more detail. Hello again, Erik, and bless us with your wisdom. Teach us about clairaudience.
Hi, Mama. Hi, Mama.
Hi.
Okay, so what we were talking about, I think we had just started with the clairaudient. We were talking about how you can hear things with your regular ears that are around you, and then also in your mind. He says that it's clairaudience stands for clear hearing, and he says that so he was reminding me, I was asking him, like, where did we leave off? And he says that we were talking about it could be a medical condition, but if you're hearing ringing in your ears, or different frequencies, you can tune into, like just like there's sounds that like animals hear, like, okay, animals can hear these different frequencies. You can tune into those frequencies. Now, it's our spiritual, like, being that does it. It's like just the spiritual side of us does that. And he's going to go over, like, some ways to know, if you're really strong with this, and maybe ways to make it stronger, get better at it. But what he wants to talk about right now is, and I'm not laughing at this, I'm just the way he said it. So he got real serious, and he's like, okay, so clairaudient can be a mental illness, as in schizophrenia.
Yeah, auditory hallucinations. But then there may be schizophrenics who really are just channeling and are not mentally ill.
Absolutely. Absolutely, he says. And there are many, especially back when people didn't know a lot about the Clairs, okay? A lot of people were like put in the hospital, because they
Yeah.
thought they had a mental illness.
Institutionalized. Yeah.
Right, institutionalized.
Mhm.
So something he says, like the way to know the difference is the voices, okay, what you hear is very it's the amount of stress it causes, okay? Meaning like they're very I'm looking for what is the word, Eric? What's that word? Intrusive, he says. Very
Oh,
intrusive.
intrusive thoughts.
Okay. Right. Very intrusive, very negative.
Yeah.
Okay.
And true clear audience would not, I don't think
No,
spirit
no,
would. Negative entities, yeah, but not your guides, your
right,
relatives. They wouldn't
right,
say,
right. No, usually most of the time it's going to be positive.
yeah.
Now, having said that, he says there are negative things they might tell you about a loved one just to show
Oh,
like
yeah.
validation, but it's not what's being said so much, it's how it makes you feel.
Oh,
So there's the clairsentient again. So if they're saying something to you directly, like to hurt yourself
oh,
or,
yeah, no.
to make you feel bad about yourself, okay, this can be the sign of the mental illness.
Or it could be a
So
negative being, a
yes,
negative entity that's
yes, it
doing
can.
it. Because they
It can.
feed off your anxiety and depression. It's, yeah.
Right, right. I was asking him how to tell the difference in that. So he's saying that it's kind of hard to tell the difference between it being a negative entity because even when you have like schizophrenia, he says the negative entities will sometimes feed on that. Now it's not
That's
saying
true.
that they're causing the schizophrenia; they just feed
Yeah.
on your energy because it's more negative.
Yeah.
But one of the ways too, he's saying to tell the difference between that is, and it doesn't always work, but this is a little bit, sometimes this is a sometimes thing,
Yeah.
he says. If you tell it to stop because we have the final say,
Oh,
okay, and what is attached to us or messing
yeah.
with us, okay, but you have to believe in yourself too, because some people say, well, I told it to stop and it didn't,
Yeah.
and that's because it's a belief that you have to
Mhm.
have. You have to trust in yourself to know that you
Trust
have
your
that
power.
power.
Yeah,
Right,
trust in your
trust your
power.
power because
And of
we
course,
are
if you get the
stronger.
scalar work that gets rid of these things, then that will also stop, unless it is a mental illness. Okay.
Right, right. And if it's a mental illness, it's going to usually cause some psychosis. It's going to
Yeah.
get, pretty deep and pretty harsh.
Yeah.
And it's more often too,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah.
So that's something to be aware of. Some other ways he says for the clairsentient to like know, if you're real strong with it, that he's saying like people that are very musically inclined, very
Mhm.
talented, they're usually very strong with clairaudient,
Oh,
he
yeah. Well,
says.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, and I do this, I know other people do this, I know you do this. If you find that you're talking to yourself a lot and you're hearing the answers coming back to you, okay, someone
Yeah.
talking back in your mind, again, it could be mental illness, but most of the time, if it's positive, it's going to be
Yeah.
clairaudient. Okay.
Okay.
And your gut instinct's going to tell you too. So I've done that where I'm talking, like I won't even realize I'm talking out loud. Sometimes I'll be like in a
No.
public place or something and look around. It's like I don't care anymore. I used to get really embarrassed. Now I could care less. But
Okay.
but I was just sitting there talking to myself, and then people just looking at me like, "Yeah, what?
Well,
What are you
me,
talking to
for
me?"
some reason, I almost always have some sort of tune in my head. And it's just like the theme song to Jesus Christ Superstar or, this Prairie Jaka or just weird things. Why?
Well, Eric says that you have a very active mind, Mom.
Yeah.
Mom,
Christina
you have
does the
very
same. She said, this,
very active mind. I do that too. I do that too. There might be a little bit, and I'm not diagnosing you or anyone else, but some people with ADD will have
oh,
this
yeah, I have
happen.
that.
It
Yeah.
jumps around. Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
just jumps around.
Oh, yeah.
Um, there's ways to change some thoughts, like or like get rid of like intrusive thoughts, because he's saying that people can have intrusive thoughts without the schizophrenia. Okay,
Yeah.
we're human, and we are probably our own worst enemies. We probably say things to ourselves we wouldn't say to our, enemies. But he says, and I think we talked about this before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was in this one or another one, but we talked about how you can replace those thoughts.
Yeah.
So if you're
Positive
hearing
thoughts.
yourself talking to you, okay, and
Yeah.
you're doing negative talking to yourself, just replace them. But just know that usually this is not going to be your spirit guides or
Yeah.
loved ones.
Can your
Okay?
higher self, can you hear your higher self clairaudiently?
So you can, this is our higher self is us, really.
The oversoul.
But yeah, it is us, like, but yes, you can hear your higher self. And this is going to be just like your own internal voice. Most of the time, also, he says you'll also hear like spirits, your guides or loved ones in your own internal voice too.
Yeah.
Okay. But sometimes you'll hear it in their voice. So it just depends. It depends on the spirit, how they communicate, and how you're connected to it. But it is just verbal, like verbal talking in the mind. So let's see. Okay, so one of the other things he says is a sign of having a strong clairaudient is you crave peace and quiet. So you want to, and this is for two reasons, he says. One is because you just need that quiet because you've got a lot going on in your mind and you want to quiet down. Another is because you like to be in like a meditative state, kind of just pay attention to what's going on in your mind. One of the other. And this is a big one with probably all the clairs, but mostly the clairaudient. Like if you're real strong with clairaudient.
Yeah.
Because even though it seems like he says the clairsentient can be strong and you'd want to be alone, maybe that one doesn't really shut off that much. Okay, they're constantly feeling things. So, but you're not trying to get away from it so much. You're trying to build, like, I don't want to say a wall, but a bubble against some of the stuff. Okay,
and increase your ability to discern.
Right, and so
outside.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So the clairaudient ways he says to maybe get stronger with it. Okay. There's ways that you can get stronger with it. He says, so I think I said this about the clairvoyance, but you can do another side of this, okay, with the clairaudient. Like if you're sitting outside and there's sounds going on, try to listen to just one of the sounds in there. Just discern one, different pitches and the different sounds of it.
Like a bird call.
Yeah, right. Like you got a bird and you hear a lawnmower, a car, a siren. You have all these sounds, but try to just tune into one of them. And another way too, he says, is music. We're going back to music because this is really like there's so many different notes and sounds with music, he says. He says that if you can focus in and hear like the different sounds, like how low, like the lowest sounds, or maybe how loud they get. You can listen to some
different patterns in the same song, like
exactly. Yeah,
you can just pick out one pattern, sort of separate it from the other string of notes.
Right, exactly. And it really does help. It makes it stronger. He says meditation on this, it's kind of like a meditation on sounds. So it's kind of a meditative way. I guess it's considered meditation is what he's trying to say. Right. So you're meditating on these different things. And there's so many different kind of meditations. I'm sure we're probably going to do a video on it, but there's so many different ways to meditate.
Okay. Now, go ahead. We're almost out of time.
Oh, okay. So he was just talking about focusing on you can do like some mind reading, like where you can like do that. And I think you can do this with clairvoyance, but you do like mind reading, like you'll say something in your mind and then you're, friend or loved one or whatever will try to pick up on what you're saying in your
Cool.
mind.
And vice versa.
Yeah, vice versa. What something else he says is he wants to go back to the clairsentient real quick. He's saying that there's some things like when you're doing the clairaudient, pay attention to the feeling of these things too, because we didn't really go over like how to improve on the clairsentient. And the reason why he says is because we talked about the protection and we talked about, paying attention. So that's kind of like the same thing as going over like how to improve it. It's just really paying attention, to the feelings and the feelings of what's around you and what's yours and what's theirs. Okay. So did you say we're almost out of time?
Yep.
I'm seeing if there's anything else, Erik, anything else you want to talk about with this. No, he's just saying that with all of the clairs, if you practice with each one of them separately and then also pay attention to how they work together, he says, pay attention to how they work together too, because you do use them. And he says the thing is that like, unless you're doing like I am, like I've been doing this for a while, right? Yeah. You have been doing this every day of your life. You've been using all the clairs. So it's hard to tell if it's you or if it's a clair. Yeah. All right. So just practice with them, know.
Now, go ahead.
Oh, and he's just saying, and then you get better at understanding them and how they work.
Now, a lot of people say, we'll use, I hear you. Some people say, I see what you're saying.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Is that a good way to sort of tell?
Yes. Those are ways to tell, he says, if you're more of a listening person or a feeling person or a seeing person, like I see you, I hear you, or I'm even knowing. There's one for even knowing, like
I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. It just shows like which one probably is your stronger clair also. Okay. Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Ginger, what about you? What do you want to share about? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, he just reminded me the chakra that this is connected to is the throat. The clairaudience connected to the throat chakra.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Sound. That's cool. That's what you, okay. That makes sense.
Sound.
Wow.
Yeah. So now what were you going to ask me?
What would you like to share about you and all the stuff you have to offer, which is amazing. You just did a life coaching session on one of my kids, and it was very powerful. I want to thank you for
I'm glad.
And for letting me pay for it. Thank you very much. Because I don't like it to get free stuff. All right. What else?
It's like you said, it's an energy exchange too. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm having a Valentine's Day sale right now on the 60-minute, just the 60-minute, not the 30, because the 30-minute reading, I just have a continuous thing going where you can purchase 2 of them and then get one free for the 30-minute. And then the Valentine's Day sale is on the 60-minute reading, and I'm doing that till the end of February. Now, I know that I don't have any openings in February right now, but I want to tell people that even though I'm kind of booked out a little bit, go ahead and schedule and let me know if you're wanting something sooner, because things do come open. You know, people reschedule all the time.
And take advantage of the sale anyway.
Right. Take advantage of the sale. You can schedule, anytime for the sale. It's just that I have it going during February for Valentine's, Day. So, and then my other regular sessions, life coaching, I do the fitness, nutrition. So I also do healing. I don't do a lot of that one. I think because I do that, I also do healing in each one of my sessions too. I do free Reiki, and every single session I have, I run Reiki.
God, that's so awesome.
Yeah. So it raises your vibration, and it kind of helps with the readings too,
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Well, I love you, Ginger. Love you, Erik.
Love you too.
Every one of you out there.
Erik says, love you.
Love you. Please make sure that you connect with Ginger. We'll somewhere in this video, we will have already, or maybe we will have her information flashed on the screen. And you guys be sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss nothing. I love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.